When I look at the community and I see women and girls here and throughout Mason, I see neighbors. When you take away the ability for half my neighbors to make decisions about what happens in their own reproductive organs, you're discriminating against them based on their gender. Some of you have already announced your public support for this extremist legislation, showing us that when you see women and girls in this room and in our community, you don't see neighbors, you see forced incubators for your political gain.
If someone I love turns to me for help, what are my consequences exactly if I supply the address of a clinic in another jurisdiction, or if I provide money or a ride or even advice?
My care of my body is between me and my doctor. I don't believe any of you are my doctor. If this ordinance passes, you guys get in between me and my doctor. You don't want to be between me and my doctor during a pelvic exam.
If this were truly a pro-life measure, it would be supporting struggling single parents or providing access to reproductive health care and contraception to prevent unwanted births, which are all actions that have been proven to actually decrease abortions. Instead, this measure seeks to criminalize women because they can't afford to be mothers, have bodies that might not survive becoming mothers, or don't want to be mothers at all.
That abortion is a human right, it's a woman's right, it's a right for people with uteruses, and it's not for anyone without a uterus to make. And I believe that the people of Mason want to know who on this council truly believes that this Sanctuary of Life bill is a good idea, because we want to know who's taking away our rights.
Another unintended consequence of this debacle will be that human rights organizations and businesses will descend on Mason and will slap the city with lawsuits that will become a financial burden. It will not matter where each one of us stands on this issue. All of us will pay for the price of this political vanity project.
How do you prove that someone had an abortion or aided and abetted one? Will you be relying upon spies or gossip or people reporting each other to find out who may be in violation of the ordinance? It was claimed at the previous meeting that an ordinance, as opposed to a resolution, is enforceable. But honestly, how do you intend to enforce any of this?
So I come here as a concerned Mason resident, a husband and a father of a girl who will enter the society in a few years. I want to tell you something, Council. You don't have a say in my daughter's body or her choices. No one has but her.
I'm a lifelong resident of Mason. I'm speaking here tonight because access to medical care is a human right, and it's a fundamental right protected under the federal Constitution. So I take very seriously any effort to try to limit that right for myself, for my daughter, and for my community.
How will this egregious ordinance that seeks to criminalize legal abortion help the city of Mason? This ordinance is clearly unconstitutional on so many levels.
I have a 17-year-old daughter. I am here to ask you, do not allow this ordinance to pass. Do not turn Mason into a place where my daughter is a simple container. Don't turn Mason into a place where she has no rights and no authority over her own body.
I'm very proud of my 15-year-old, and that if anyone needs help or transport to or from Planned Parenthood, I am a person that you can come to, and I will forever and always be your safe space to come to.
I feel that not only my rights, but the rights of our family as a community are at stake.
Imagine after having served in the U.S. Air Force for your entire adult life, settling into Mason in your mid-30s. You live on a quiet street with your spouse of 13 years of marriage and a 6-year-old son. All you want for your son is for him to not be alone anymore. He's had to live without his mother twice in his young life. What you would love more than anything is to have a brother or sister for your son. So you try and grow your family, and you find out you're pregnant, and you start thinking of names and nursery arrangements, and then at 9 weeks along, you start to feel funny and find out you've miscarried. The hole in your heart is so big, and the doctor prescribes misoprostol, more commonly known as Cytotec, to help move the miscarriage along because you're 35 years old and you want to keep trying and the clock is ticking. Now imagine that a man on Mason City Council, a man with no medical education, nor experience thinks he knows more about what's best for your body and thinks you should not have access to misoprostol. Imagine that man robs you of the chance to grow your family or prevent you from fulfilling the prescription at a Mason pharmacy, or that simply taking the prescription can implicate your loving husband.
And I will not stand idly by while you try to restrict women's access to health care. I know I'm not the only one in this room who's had an abortion. It was the best choice for my physical health and my mental health at the time, and the best choice for my family, and I'm not ashamed of it. I choose to say that out loud in this room full of people because when things having to do with sex or body parts, especially women's body parts, are kept in the shadows where shame tends to lurk, people in power will use that to try to manipulate and intimidate, all in an attempt to grow their own personal or political power over others. As someone who's made the choice to have an abortion, and someone who is also a mother, I know that neither decision is easy, and both decisions are brave.
I have 7 grandchildren. If I couldn't help my granddaughter driving her to an appointment if she needed an abortion, I could be prosecuted here, even though her care would not happen here, nor would she live here.
You were not elected to insert your own moral codes into the personal, legal, medical care of Mason citizens. With all due respect, please stay in your lane.
I don't have quite enough words to express how angry I am that well into the 21st century, I still have to fight battles to defend my privacy and my choice from men who've never had a uterus or the worry of being saddled with responsibilities they'd sooner decline.
Right. If you pass this ordinance, you are going to hurt the Mason economy. You are going to throw away many of the great people who already live here, and also cause people who might consider Mason an option to go elsewhere, take their intellectual capital, their potential, their families, their tax revenue elsewhere.
Councilman Honor Law, perhaps the most ironic name in history, my family and countless others do not want a tax-dodging insurrectionist dictating what happens in our doctor's offices.
Today I challenge you to ask yourself what you truly want to come out of this ordinance and whether it is really worth penalizing people for aiding in or getting an abortion. Whether it's worth penalizing people for a choice that wasn't yours to make in the beginning.
So please consider who this ordinance will hurt more so than whom it will merely appease. And thank you for your time.